You're listening to the Ballet Piano Podcast, lifting the lid on dance accompaniment.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to episode 74 of the Ballet Piano Podcast. My name is Chris Hobson, and around the dining table with me is Akiko Hobson.
Hello.
Matt Gregory.
Hi, everyone.
And David Yao.
Hi, everybody.
How are we all?
Smashing.
Much the same as when we recorded the last episode, I think. Right. We often get questions sent to us via Instagram, Facebook, email, or sometimes just in person when we're in a studio or out and about. And we've had quite a few this year, but I've just sort of curated, if you like, a few questions. And Matt will be proud of me because, I've even typed them up. I've done my preparation for this episode.
What post is it? It's very good. I like this one.
I don't know. Anyway, subscribe to the mailing list to find out what font Chris has used. So I'm going to call this episode Ask a Ballet Pianist Anything, because it's mostly about playing. But David, I think you're going to definitely chip in with stuff because you will. Because it will be relevant. So let's go straight in. Question number one. Now, this is definitely at pianists, I'm sure, because the question is, what sparked your interest in playing for ballet? Matt.
I didn't know it was what I was going to be doing. It's not what I trained in, as you know. I trained to be a performer. And so I didn't really know that I could do that. And I started playing tap classes first, but they needed musicians at Doreen Bird's where I trained. Yeah. And I'd just come back off an awful cruise ship contract. And one of the girls in the year below me stopped me in the street and said, "Oh, they've been trying to call you at Birds." I was like, why? And so actually, you know
my history.
Yeah, because they all know me. I just graduated the year before. Yeah. So they're trying to get in touch with you. Okay, so they did. And then they just invited me in. I watched a load of classes and then I just started doing it.
Wow.
But I loved it from day one.
So when you were training, did you start playing piano first or did you dance first?
Definitely played the piano first.
Did you?
Yeah.
Right.
I started piano when I was about 11, 12 at first year of high school.
Right.
And then I didn't start dancing till I was 15.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Goodness.
I had a lot of catching up to do.
Gosh. Why did you want to dance then? What made you want to dance then?
Well, me and my friend actually started adult tap classes in Liverpool. But because we were like 14 and 15 against all these old women, we were just like being extra stagey. And they were all doing
Was it a bit like you were in Stepping Out, the play or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that film.
And then very quickly, it was a school in Allerton. And we thought, we want to do more than just adult tap classes. And then I saw Whistle Down the Wind at the Liverpool Empire.
Right.
And the kids in that musical, the Ken Wright production, the national tour, they were from the Elliot Clark School in Liverpool.
Oh, okay,
Elliot Clark.
I am going to that school. I'm going
to heard the name Elliot Clark School for years.
How do you all know it?
Well,
it's quite famous, isn't it?
I used to work in Liverpool a bit, and I was freelancer in the Northwest. So.
Well, that's the school I went to. I did 3 years there. And with all these legendary teachers, and I thought, I'm going to be famous. if I could, because Claire Sweeney went there, and all these stars off Brookside and all the rest of it. I thought, I'm going to be famous if I go to that school. So that's how I started dancing.
Wow, right.
But piano never left me. And then, of course, from Elliot Clark's, I then went to Birds, but I always played the piano.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And then I started doing it after I graduated from Birds, whilst going off and doing dance jobs.
Wow.
It wasn't planned.
No, but is it planned for any of us? Because everybody falls into it, don't they, really?
But something I fell into it briefly. I'll summarise this because I've said it so many times. I was gigging, and somebody asked me if I wanted to audition for a job in Northern School of Contemporary Dance as a musician. And I didn't know that existed. And I was, 17, 18. I no idea what I was going to do at the time. So I was on this gap year. I was like, 15 quid an hour. I can do gap year. I was like, 15 quid an hour. Yeah, I can do that. And I just went and vibed it out. So I started in the contemporary field and then went playing for ballet after that. And I just found I enjoyed playing for ballet a lot more than I did playing for contemporary. I still enjoy playing contemporary, but there was something about ballet that just felt a lot more natural to me than playing for contemporary. Right. What about you, Akiko? What sparked your interest in playing for ballet? Was it somebody wearing a very neatly ironed shirt?
I came to Britain.
Who would that be?
Oh.
Do I know that you?
No,
No.
no,
Actually, no.
Oh, go on.
Anita was talking, going the circle.
Yeah.
It's a bit like this. So, I came to London to study music, and I studied at Trinity College of Music. Now, while I was a student there, I met a boy who was a first-year student at the Royal Ballet School at that time. Hello, Yoshi. And his
Yoshi.
parents, obviously in Japan, unable to attend Parents' Day. At that time they weren't like Zoom
Yeah,
Parents'
no
Day.
FaceTime and things like that back then.
No Skype,
Yeah, so
No, probably not.
pre-Skype, pre-everything.
No, nothing. So I just went along on the Parents' Day to watch him because ballet school sounds really posh, and I've never seen ballet in my life, and it's really nice. So I just sat among all the parents. I looked very young.
You look like your sister.
Yeah, I looked like a sister. And then I watched my very first ballet class where Mr. Chris Pawney taught. He was the first year teacher, and he was teaching Yoshi's class at that time. He was just about to leave, actually, to Holland, I think. And then, obviously, the first year student at the Royal Ballet School, they're amazing. Like, they just look like all synchronized, and it's just like, wow. And also, I'd never seen boys do ballet. And then, and Chris was wearing, he's very good looking man. And he was wearing a very nicely ironed white shirt with the black trousers. And he looked like a prince in my eyes at that time. And then the pianist, who is actually in Stuttgart now, he was amazing pianist. So for me, the whole picture, it just looked fantastic. And I was like, this is cool. And I've been always good at like musicianship and things as a small child. So when I watched this class, I was like, I think I can do this. So I went home that evening, made my own very fast English CV. I'm sure there were lots of mistakes, but I made it anyway. And I literally Googled every single ballet school and ballet companies in London. Said, I want work experience. And I sent my CV, started to get little job in a local school, playing RAD. Within a year, I was playing for company class.
Wow.
Yeah, so I actually chose to do this.
And you did your masters. Was it your masters that you did?
Oh, yeah. So my master's degree at Trinity College of Music was that because my English was really not so good to do a thesis in the music. And their course was quite flexible. So they didn't call dissertation or thesis. They called it as personal project. So as long as it's equivalent of how many thousand words, I could have submitted anything with any format. So what I did was I wrote the instruction book for Ballet Pianist, and I wrote like a book, and I submitted few of the DVDs at the time of my playing and other people playing and explaining what and steps of ballet and things. That was my personal project.
Wow.
Yeah, and then that's what
Amazing.
how I got master's degree. I still have it. I can show you later.
Yeah.
Can we upload it to the website?
I'm sure there's lots of mistakes.
You should rewrite it now after nearly
Yeah.
20 years of doing it.
That would be a really good
Yeah,
guide.
yeah.
And put it
Probably not
online.
to-
You should
yeah.
sell it.
Oh,
No,
you know what,
no.
No,
that
because there
actually-
needs to be some sort of manual, doesn't there?
Right.
Like,
Do you know what that Akiko,
Read
your
your book.
story leads really nicely onto the next question, which is from somebody who's asked to remain anonymous but would like an answer to the question. So I will respect that. It says, there seem to be many courses and lessons for people who want to become a ballet pianist. These seem to have multiplied recently. Is it actually beneficial to take part in any of these courses? So, and I think that's a tricky question to answer because it depends on
Of course.
it depends on the course. And it
Yeah.
depends.
On
I mean, it also depends on
on
the
you,
pianist
yeah.
level of musicianship and things like that.
It
and
depends who's
previous
teaching the
experience.
course as
Yeah.
well.
And also your ability.
Yeah.
So many factors to consider.
So, I mean, I don't know. I'm old school. I'm old hat. I'm old fashioned. So I got into it by accident, as we discussed, and I learned by making the mistakes and then getting an absolute barrage of abuse about the mistakes and going, holy moly, I'm never going to make that mistake again. Now, I mean, that was a long time ago, so times are relatively different
and
now.
we can't talk about that barrage of whatever, because we on this podcast, we talk about the culture of communication. So in 2024, that barrage really wouldn't stand up, would it?
And I mean, it wouldn't happen now. Nobody would shout at the pianist across the studio and tell them how they
like
were.
they did 20 years ago.
And I was talking with my colleague the other day, but in like our olden days time, because we're all old, we had...
I'm the youngest. I'm still old.
Am I not the oldest? No,
no, you're not.
No, you're not the
nearly.
oldest.
You're 2 years younger than David. Sorry, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah. So, but in our time, there was always a local ballet school that it's the class is slow and you can learn and you can have a mistake. But these kind of local ballet schools now, they are saving money because pianists are very expensive and they cannot afford to pay for the pianist anymore. So they tend to use the CDs and things. So there's no field for this newly beginner ballet pianist to actually go and develop the skills, and it's okay to like situation that you can have a mistake and try to fix it. And then, you know, because you didn't start from day one company class, right?
No, of course not.
So so there is not much opportunity for young, you know, want to be ballet pianists to actually try things. So maybe that might be replacing the courses.
I think maybe some of the courses could be useful. I mean, like, I know up at Scottish where they do is it an MA course that they do up there?
Yeah.
You know, and you get the chance to play for the classes in the education department, as well as getting trained by the pianists and the musicians and getting experience with Scottish Ballet. So that's amazing. But obviously that's an MA course and you have to pay for it, and it's comes with everything else. And there's
an associate program at the Royal Opera House, isn't there?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want one of my first gigs to be a company class at the Royal Ballet.
And you don't learn everything.
Our godfather, Jonathan, he used to teach on that course. And he used to do an exercise they would jump on, and they'd alternate between playing exercises. And if the associate was a bit stuck, he would get them out of it. But like we were saying earlier, it depends on the course, depends on who's teaching it. You know, if you had Jonathan, you're learning from the best, which is fine. But then you have to look at sort of where that person is playing, what level they're at, really. I don't know, obviously, Nikki Williamson, I don't know whether she still does, but Defa used to have a course in London. Now Nikki's great. You would learn from her, wouldn't you? No problem with that. But it really depends on what experience that person has.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Akiko's Way is a great way, even now, if you really want to do this job, you're not going to start off at the top, because none of us did. Whether as a pianist, as a teacher, as a you know, as a dancer, whatever, you don't start off at the top. You do start off at the bottom, and there's still a sort of archaic in some ways. The ballet profession is very old fashioned, isn't it? So it's, you know, and it's quite archaic and, you know, historic and so that. And so there is a respect that you get by starting at the bottom and learning. You know, effectively by mistakes.
And the thing is, a course today wouldn't have served me because I was learning to be a pianist.
Yes.
Whilst
I was dance knowledge.
Whilst I was playing for ballet.
Yeah.
Whereas people come from conservatoire, want to play for ballet, they're already excellent pianists. Where I was improving my music technique whilst learning to play for ballet. So a course where you're expected to be a good pianist and learn how to play for ballet wouldn't have served me.
But even like from music college, there's people who can improvise very well.
Oh, that's
who have
true.
No clue how to improvise.
Yeah.
And then it's a very different level that you're talking about. So depends on what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if you're interested in playing for dance, and wherever you are in the world, often those are like a local ballet school somewhere.
Yeah.
Just to get in touch with the person who owns the school and just offer your services and just like say, can I come and watch a class or something?
Or there'll be some, you know, there'll be something. Usually, if it's a local school, it might be RAD or ISTD or something. And if you say, I want to come and I want to play, I'm happy to do it for petrol money, even. But you know, just to get that experience of playing for somebody
I'm sure the school
moving,
would be very grateful. because then, as you said, as Akiko said, it's very expensive to hire pianists these days.
Yeah.
But to have somebody wanting to have that experience, and for you to meet them halfway would be really, really good.
And then
on
that
both
allows
sides.
you as the pianist to not feel the pressure and be able to, if you make a mistake, then you've put your cards on the table at the start. Look, I never said that I could do this. I want to learn, and I'm very eager and keen to learn.
Yeah. So I would say, like David just said, if you really want to learn to be a ballet pianist, find a local school where you can either learn the syllabus or just try in children's classes. Find a teacher that you can work with that's going to let you make your mistakes. And watch as many established pianists as possible. And then, as we've said to people that have come over from Japan and have watched us all, there's a point where you actually have to step up to the podium and do it. Because it can be fearful. You can watch for 6 months, but you actually have to have a go at this.
The more you watch as a newbie, the bigger the fear can get.
Exactly.
You develop, it becomes something actually, we spoke about you need big balls and all that with all that, but it becomes bigger in your head than what it actually is.
When I started learning to play for class, Nick, that mentored me for 4 years, he was on a sabbatical for a year. So I literally was drowning for a year, finding my way through it. And if I'd have heard him play at first, it would have psyched me out. Because he was incredible. He played for all the companies in London. He was music director at Rambert. He played, Four Hands, Right to Spring with Chris Rithenbank. He did all that in London. MD'd all the musicals in London as well. Chorus Line, Song and Dance with Wayne Sleep. He did all that. And his class playing was phenomenal. And you must know Nick from Birds. Maybe. He will have been there if you were there, but maybe your paths never crossed.
Maybe.
But if I'd have watched him from day one, it would have psyched me out.
Right.
So there's a point where you have to just get on and have a go.
Exactly, because how many workshop you attended, all this certificate doesn't make you a good pianist. You actually have to, do it.
Just getting on and doing it.
Yeah.
I think so. Do you sometimes feel that you don't get along with the ballet teacher you are playing for? If so, how do you deal with this situation? Now,
this is a great
David, I think we
question.
could also apply the same question to you with the pianist, couldn't we? Can I go first? And I'll just hold my hands up. I used to do with it really immaturely, and now I don't because I'm a grown up.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am sure. Go away. No, it can be tricky. I don't think I've ever been unprofessional, but I think now I will always try to make my path the easiest because I've decided now I want to go to work and have fun and I want to have a nice time and an easy time. And I will do everything now within my path to make that happen. And I've also realized not everybody's going to like me. We have to get on professionally in the studio. If we're not having the greatest time in the studio professionally, it's not up to me to sort of, fight back or anything like that. I could maybe question it outside, or I can just go, it was one of those days. Maybe this ballet mistress or ballet master or teacher's got a load of other stuff going on in their outside life that I don't know about. And it just so happens they've left their baggage outside today. Possibly.
Well, I've got a bit of a story if you want to hear it.
Always. Here we go.
So I played for a company class in the Central Hemisphere. And the teacher who I'd never met before was first date nerves, had a lovely class. Everything was absolutely fine. But we finished the bar and we came into the centre and he said to me, obviously completely anonymous, won't name this person. He said, I've got my own music for the pirouette exercise.
Oh.
You mean CD?
Yeah. His own recorded music. So I just played the whole bar. I think we'd done the centre tondu and the adage, and then he's like, I've got my own music for the pirouette. I was like, no one had warned me when they booked me. This all happened on the spot, and I was like, otherwise I probably would have said no if I'd have known this in advance. So he puts on Nicki Minaj.
No.
What?
Yeah, which is like a really clubby track. I hope he doesn't listen to this part. I don't really care. Basically, Boots Chemist.
Big fish, little fish, cardboard box.
Basically. And so I just sat and read the paper whilst they did both sides of the pirouette exercise. But because Nicki Minaj it's a quick two essentially, isn't it? It didn't work for the exercise. The phrasing was all off. it didn't work. They were waiting for the start of a new phrase because it didn't add up and all the rest of it. And I was pretty livid.
I think I remember your voice note about this, which I will not
so.
publish,
And then
of course.
the pirouette exercise is over. Then we go to jumps. I thought, I'm not having this. So I just played the jumps with my right hand. I played the hornpipe, one single melody line. And then they did a little petit allegro, which I then just played with my right hand.
Oh my gosh.
And then I just grabbed my bag and the paper and left after that.
Well,
And the dancers were, they knew I was miffed that day.
That is so rude.
But the point of my story is we got booked again to work together at a different place.
Right.
And he knew he'd pissed me off.
Yeah.
So when we met again, weeks, months later, he was very sheepish when he saw me. But the class went absolutely fine.
Yeah,
Right.
He was very forthcoming because he probably realised he upset me the last time. I have no problem with people having their own music, but it's either all or nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not getting booked for a gig and then you cherry pick the bits and I'll just sit there and I'll fill in.
Yeah.
I don't know
What's
how
the
you
point
feel
of
about
having a
that.
live
I wouldn't
musician
do
if
that,
you do
no.
that?
No, if they'd have said to me, oh, he's got his own music for the centre, I'd have just said, well, he's got his own music for the whole class then.
Yeah,
because,
you don't go because it's almost insulting to the pianist.
I was very insulted.
I wouldn't be happy with that at all.
Well, the point of the question is, you just, the next gig, you're just very professional. You just get through it. And as long as you don't hold that grudge, which I know I didn't do, not at all.
Yeah.
We just did that class as if it was the first meeting again, and it was absolutely fine.
Yeah, it's very beneficial to have this skill to let it go quite quickly and forget about it.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
The relationship between the teacher and the pianist is so important.
Yeah.
To make that rapport instantly is so difficult to do if you're not really prepared to be professional straight away and to understand that you have to respect the other person.
Yeah.
And we've all made mistakes there. We all have. But it's really important for the whole class, for the development of the class and you as a person to make that first initial olive branch, shall we say? Because it can either make or break your class, as you said.
Yeah.
We said this. Sorry, we said this probably that if you want to have a not a nice hour, or you want it to be laborious, you could be an orchestral librarian, or you could you could do something that isn't creative. It's got to, and it's true about letting it go. Actually, I think I've got a lot better at that in the last sort of 2 or 3 years, because I did used to hold a grudge a lot.
And I used to hold a lot of emotional baggage, thinking, oh God, I didn't get on with them last time. How's it going to be this time? And you walk into the studio and they've completely forgotten about it. So you have to let it go as well. And if you just do that, then you don't hold on to anything.
I always think that, look, I'm a musician and I started playing piano from 3. So I have this whole musical background that it's very normal and common for me. But they have their ballet background, which is not always the same as my background. And that's pretty normal for them. And then, so sometimes what I think is normal might not be their normal. And what they think is normal is not my normal. But we don't know because we haven't, I haven't had this ballet path in my past. So, it's better to, okay, maybe that's common for them, but maybe not for me. But I shouldn't, take pinch and just get annoyed about it. So I try to understand the different word that I don't understand.
Why you were very happy to play Moonlight Sonata for Grand Batman. For those you aren't watching it, Kiko just put her head in her hands and was literally looking at the Prosecco like it was the blood of life. Oh, dear. Right. Oh, dear. Right. This is one from one of our friends in Japan who's called Ibuki. And I think, David, you can ask this one. Or we could all ask. Maybe answer it, sorry. Why don't you need to take shoes off in the ballet studios in Europe, but you do in Asia?
You should really take your shoes off everywhere.
Yeah.
Because the dance floor, you need to have it clean. And once you've walked over it in outdoor shoes, whatever you've been outdoors with, you're going to traipse inside. So I love the Asian thing about taking your shoes off. And most places now, they'll say, no shoes unless, you're you're a special guest, shall we say?
Right.
Wow.
But usually we take the shoes off.
Mm.
You know,
put
when
your
I
ballet
met
shoes
her,
on.
she was shocked that we all walk into the studio with just normal shoes.
Mhm.
And that was like one of the questions. She was like, why are you not taking shoes off?
I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's a lovely thing.
Yeah.
Actually, I really
Yeah.
respect that if people do that.
But that's sort of Japanese culture as well, isn't it? Like, because in some European countries, and certainly in Britain, some households don't take their shoes off when they go in.
Mhm.
But it's not right or wrong. It's just different
Culture.
isn't it? You know, it's not for one to judge. I think that's just a cultural thing, isn't it? You're right. There has been a bigger shift towards taking shoes off in the last sort of maybe 10 years or so. Certainly since COVID, there was a big thing at that time, wasn't there, of taking outdoor clothes off and shoes off and things. And some of that has stayed.
And nowadays, because everybody dances on lino, whereas before it was like wood,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
so it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
Wooden floors.
Yes, but because it's lino, it has a certain surface on the top,
Yeah.
and if you that's why you can't use rosin to help you to stick to the floor, because it creates a film on the top of the lino, which becomes sticky or slippy, and then you can't dance on it properly. Then you have to wash it.
Yeah.
So what tends to happen is you wash the lino, then you want it to be the same as much as possible. So that's why people take the shoes off now, and then you use their ballet shoes, the shoes they're going to use on that floor in that studio.
Yeah.
When the dancers finish class, they all put their outside flip-flops on or something
Yeah.
to when they walk out of the studio over their ballet shoes. And then as soon as they step in the studio, they're in their ballet shoes that they're going to dance in on that floor. And they all do it. And David's got his lovely Crocs. And David does the same thing.
The Croc King.
They're all customized, aren't they? Your
They are.
Crocs.
They only stay in the studio
get pimped out,
environment.
yeah.
Absolutely.
MyCrocs.com.
But I would never walk across a ballet studio in my trainers.
Right.
And actually, to get from the door to the piano, you sort of skirt around the edge
edge.
anyway.
Yeah.
You never go around
Yeah.
the periphery as a
Yeah.
ballet
Right.
pianist, don't you?
Yeah, so you never walk across the floor, really.
No.
Yeah.
Right, I've got one last question before we sign off. And it says, could you please share one great experience that you've had as a ballet pianist or a ballet teacher?
Ooh.
I think my greatest experience, and it's sort of as a pianist, but it's also as an orchestral musician. It was when I was up at Northern. So this is going back, as we've said, a long time. This was 2020. And I did the arrangements for a jazz ballet that David Nixon did at the time, which was called As Time Goes By. So it was about 8 different songs. It was just part of a triple bill that we did. But we managed to get the orchestra absolutely rocking. So, and absolutely gorgeous bloke called John Melbourne, who was the pit percussionist. He said, "Oh, I can play a bit of drums." I was like, "Right, okay, right." Well, and then Steve Costello, who no longer works there, he said, "Well, I like jazz." So, I think he went out and bought an amplifier to play upright bass in the pit. So we had the piano trio in the corner, and then Joanne Rosario, who was and still is the first clarinetist. I didn't know she could play saxophone, so she came in with the saxophone. So we got the quartet in the corner, and then we got supported by the rest of the band, who also played as well. So I think that was still to this day, that was one of my highlights, was when we finished that particular run of that ballet in the Leeds Grand Theatre in February 2010, I think it was. Then I went and got leathered in the pub, but it was so good. It was sort of, I mean, it was a la Strictly Come Dancing style. It wasn't overly highbrow, but it was just, for me, that was a very special personal experience for me, and one I will treasure for a long time.
That's nice. Yeah.
Anybody else got any highlights, or has it all just been horrible for the last
it's not,
few decades?
It's not a specific highlight, but yeah, playing at company level is pretty epic.
Yeah,
It's another level, isn't it?
It is. It's
Yeah.
really, I really
Raise
get
expectations.
I get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
In fact, we've done the Albert Hall gig this week, haven't we?
Yeah.
Because as we record,
You
EMB
check
are
out
there as
that
well.
one, though.
And I messaged Kiko and Matt today, because I was there this morning. She's like, "I can't hear a thing."
You didn't message me that.
Oh, did I not?
No, we've not talked about that yet.
Oh no, I thought I had.
Okay.
Maybe I wrote it and didn't press it, because I like in that space with the Swans, it's so hard to play, but it's such a kick because they finally got rid of that awful brown piano. At least they've got a semi-half decent Yamaha in there now.
Yeah.
But you're just looking around and you can see the Swans on the other side and whatever, and it's humongous. And you look and you're like, holy moly, I'm playing in the Albert Hall.
Yeah, and they always say they just love doing class there because they can just turn and jump and really fly around.
Yeah.
but it's not an easy gig for the pianist.
No, it's not. Especially if the
It's-
teacher's setting on the opposite side of the hall.
It's really difficult.
But now they have like huge big studios where they usually work. Does it make a difference like going into the Albert Hall?
Well, no, because in the studio it's obviously smaller than the Albert Hall. The
Oh,
sound will always
yeah.
bounce
Yeah.
back in the studio. You've got the mirrors next to you. The
Yeah.
sound always bounces back. At the Albert Hall, it just
You don't hear
completely
anything.
disappears
Yeah,
as soon
unless
as
the
you play.
teacher's setting and facing towards where you're sitting,
Yeah.
you can't really hear them.
Yeah.
Because
Oh.
the voice is going out
Oh,
towards
that's interesting.
where the audience would be sitting.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think maybe once upon a time it was sort of mic'd around the hall for class.
Right,
Once upon a time, but it isn't
Yeah.
anymore. Or maybe it never
Yeah.
was, but it always felt like it.
right.
Could be.
Yeah, yeah. It used to be mic'd when they did the 3 mils thing.
Okay.
When they used
Right.
3 mils for Albert Hall,
Yeah.
they used to mic the piano for the other side of
Right.
the space.
I don't know what they do now.
No, I don't think they do.
Nico, have you got a great experience, or David, as a teacher? Is there a highlight, or is it just all the
It's not
highlights?
highlight, but sometimes like you really nailed it in one class and everybody's happy singing along,
Yeah.
and they just don't want to stop the exercise because they like dancing with the music I provide. And even like if the people watching or ballet masters or panels of the audition, whatever, and then they are enjoying it. So this whole group are just enjoying the air of the studio. That's like probably my happy moment.
And for you as well, because you play at the school attached to the company. When the company come and watch you playing for classes, and they validate you, that just really gives you a lift, doesn't it?
Yeah. A little bit of approval.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
nice, you
That's so
know.
important,
Yeah.
isn't it?
And then
to
they
feel like
remember
that?
about me. That's
Yeah.
quite nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice. I have two. When I first came to audition for the school that I'm teaching at right now, I had Loipa and Alfreda Thorogood as the adjudicators. So it was quite imposing already.
Whoa.
But I had wonderful pianist, and I
Who
had
was that?
was it
I
Mark?
think it was Mark Webster who played you
So
that day.
I already knew Mark, and I knew some of the students already who were at the class I was teaching. So I felt kind of like as though familiar.
Yeah.
And that kind of really helped me just relax a bit, because it was really intimidating, compared to when I went to another school, and it was a very high pressured school,
Right.
and I didn't know anybody, and they had already said, oh, this student is a very special student, da, da, da. So there was lots of expectation to see how I would teach under those circumstances. And I was so scared, I just ignored that special student. I could not cope at the time, and just focused on teaching who I could see in the studio. So that was really good. And then the other thing was, I don't usually teach company classes, and I was invited to go to South Africa, and I had a fantastic time. But I was really, really intimidated because, as you said, it was the next level up. It was company class, and they were lovely.
Yeah.
I had a lovely pianist, and I just relaxed, and it just went, and I had a fantastic time.
Yeah.
But that was a big journey for me to do that.
Yeah, because teaching the school and teaching the company is a different,
Completely
it's
different.
completely different
Right
kettle
out of my
fish,
comfort
isn't
zone.
it?
Yeah,
It's like
completely.
driving a little Ford Fiesta or driving a big HGV truck. It's a completely different gig, isn't it?
Yeah. So they were my experiences.
And you look back with smiles.
Now I do.
Yeah. After all the alcohol.
Was
Always
your
helps.
favourite experience not Entrance of the Swans?
No, it wasn't. But if you want to
That story
relive
will
that,
keep coming back.
I know it will. If you want to relive that, go back and listen to the horror stories
Horror
episode. Right. On that note, we're going to call it quits for today. So please join us next time. But for now, it's goodbye from me.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.